Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. We have a special guest here today, Milo. He's joining us because today we're talking about agile culture, and he's a very agile guy. Anyway, hello, I'm Frank Wanderer. I'm the founder and CEO of People Productive. I'm here with my co-host, the amazing Terry Mays, certified culture engineer, and we're talking about agile culture, which is episode 19 in the Workforce Productivity Series. I hope you've tuned in and been paying attention. We've been doing this now for, 19 weeks.
Yeah.
And so nothing matters more than agility, I think. But all these factors matter. I shouldn't say that, actually. You really need to be able to perform well at all the things we've chatted about for 19 weeks. We're ending on agility. Companies have a lot of work to do to be agile, no question about it. And, I think this is a great Klaus Schwab quote. In the new world, it's not the big fish which eats a small fish. It's a fast fish which eats the slow fish. So agility is your ability to react quickly to things that happen and maintain your ability to constantly try new things out and move the organization forward. I think it is one of the biggest challenges of management because there are just decades and decades of legacy in these companies. And it's very, very difficult for them to actually be agile in many cases. And so we could talk about agile infrastructure. We could talk about human agility, which I think is a big piece of this. And so having an agile culture starts with making agility a top priority and understanding what it is, Tara?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing the series now with all of these human needs that are just vital in the workplace, and they are really building blocks. So what we see in many organizations is they want to go to this last episode and they want to be more agile, but they don't want to address any of the initial things like org design and trust, strategy planning, the safety, the caring, belonging. They don't want to make sure that's in place, but they want an agile organization. And it is virtually impossible to get there without the building blocks.
Super valid point. Those foundational elements must be there.
You've got to have the foundation set before you can build, and you can only become agile when people really trust each other. Because when an agile organization, the roles are clearly defined and everybody knows what they're responsible for, and they know where their boundaries are. They know where their levels of authority are. They've been empowered to make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
When you have organizations that are sluggish in their decision making, then you're never going to be agile, because agile organizations need to be able to make decisions quickly and move quickly so that you can come up with those rapid prototypes without having to wait for 3 or 4 levels of approval before you can proceed. You really do need to empower people at lower levels of the organization to make some decisions so you can get to some output faster. It's never going to be that org that's lacks trust that will, for example, be more agile. They won't be more agile until they deal with that trust issue. You've got to be able to trust that you can rely on the people that are responsible for the different activities. You have to be able to rely on your managers to make good decisions. All of that is org trust. If you don't trust, then you're not going to allow people to make decisions at lower levels. You're going to micromanage and want to be involved in every decision that's made. And that will absolutely slow down an organization.
Super valid point. Super valid. I mean, when you get down to it, you look at just decision-making speed, which you brought up, because we assess company cultures and we have questions in there on ability to get decisions made, the ability to get a quick yes or no when you need one, 2 different factors. And most companies score terribly on these.
Yeah.
They're just bogged down in bureaucracy. People can't get a quick decision. They're not empowered, and that to get a quick yes or no when you need one. That's a simple question. There should be a way to get that.
Yeah.
But no, they can't even get that. Forget these bigger decisions that have to be made that end up having to go to a committee or some other group that meets, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And you've got people waiting for a decision. These are not agile companies.
Yeah. Another area that this kind of plays itself out is in collaboration and communication. If your teams don't work well together, often, especially in software development, You
Yeah.
have to pass on a product from one team to the next to the next.
Do you hear him scratching the door? Can you
I
hear?
do. Milo is trying to be a part of the show.
It's Dewey. It's Dewey, his brother. Hold on. Let me
Oh,
get.
is it Dewey?
Yeah. All right, Dewey. Come on. Come on.
So, you guys, this is what happens when you do a show live. The dogs try to come in and take over.
Here, I got Dewey. There he is. He's scratching the door. The minute I go out, he runs away. He's such a jerk. His brothers. Yeah. Oh, Milo and Dewey.
So, we've got the Power Twins now.
The Power Twins here. They're very agile when they want their way.
Yes,
They really
absolutely. But I was just saying how communication and collaboration is another area where you see this play itself out.
Yeah.
We have teams that cannot work well together, where they don't communicate, they don't talk about all the details and the handoff that needs to be made between teams. You find gaps in the requirements and gaps between, what was tested and what wasn't, because every team is pointing the finger at the other team.
Yeah.
Those are signs that your team is not very agile, that you won't be able to move quickly if you can't rely on the team to collaborate and create all of the requirements that need to be created, and then actually implement those requirements, test those requirements, put those requirements into some end-to-end test environment for final analysis.
Yeah.
Those are just signals that you will not be an agile organization if your teams cannot communicate with each other.
And they should be applying agile principles, not just in the development of the software, which many organizations have done, but in HR processes, in other business processes where decisions have to be made. They should build an agile framework for actually iterating through the change process. Companies are going through great transformations. They should be agile about it. That means agility has to be a strategic imperative from the top of the company. You've got to invest in it. You've got to make it a priority. And when you consider that many companies haven't put the foundation in, which Terry was talking about earlier, safe culture, caring culture, sense of belonging, managing organizational energy, passion and mood, moving it up, managing individual enablement, making sure people don't have roadblocks and hurdles to jump over, organizational enablement, Terry mentioned, strategy, planning, org, things like that. This is why most companies, 40 to 50% of their people's time is wasted productivity. They waste time in meetings. They waste time in the friction that goes on between people when they're not collaborating well. All that energy just getting chewed up. And, if you look at it as social chemistry, this is a giant reaction that's taking place very poorly. And you're not getting the desired output from the reaction because the chemistry isn't really right. I mean, I hate to say it, in most companies, it's just not. And the leaders don't understand it's their responsibility to actually manage this. It's a bad idea bringing these dudes in here, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, they're taking over the show.
They get to go on. They get to be part of the show today.
Yes, they're proving that we can have an agile show.
We can actually get them on. There they are.
We have to quickly adjust to get the dogs in the screen.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. All of these things matter. If you want your company to be in existence and you want your company to be productive, these are things you have to be thinking about. Are we as agile as we could be? And what do we need to do in order to become more agile? And it's not just, implementing an agile software development framework. It has to be an agile way of thinking. This is not just framework. This is about the way the organization moves.
Yes.
And if the organization is very sluggish with decision making or any other aspects of the business, if it's just sluggish, then you're going to have a difficult time becoming more agile and being able to make it to the marketplace first.
Yeah.
Because that's really what this race is all about. How can you best sell your products and services in the marketplace? And if it takes you, 3 or 4 years to get through design, then you're going to have a tough time.
You're out of business.
Actually,
You're out of business.
Meaning business solutions that people can gravitate toward. If you're always last to the marketplace, then you're going to see that your sales are not going to be as great as they could be. So you've got to find ways to infuse more agility into your organization.
Yeah.
And it really takes some hard looking at how you manage the people.
Yeah.
How you empowered them? What have you done to become the roadblock? A lot of times leaders don't even realize that they have made themselves the roadblock by
Yeah.
forcing all decisions to come through them.
Oh, yeah. And look, this quote by McKinsey is
Yeah,
perfect. We cannot know what the future holds. Companies are desperately trying to reinvent themselves. We know that. That survey, the 2024 Global CEO Survey by McKinsey, 45% of those CEOs say they feel they're not going to be around in 10 years. Well, guess what? If 40-50% of the time you invest or pay people to come to work and 40% of your payroll is unproductive, how could you ever win? You're not going to be here. There's no question. If they don't get on top of productivity, you can't afford to waste that much money. It's just impossible. So if you have $100 million payroll, 40-50 million producing nothing, how many years can you go on? Especially when other people may be uber productive. They've built great cultures. They're not just 40% more productive, they're double you. They're so fast compared to you. They make quick decisions because they made agility a priority. Everybody thinks agile. They've empowered people way down in the organization to make decisions. They've removed a lot of bureaucracy. They have meetings where if you don't think you're needed, meetings have to be announced what it's about. If you don't think you're needed, you can check in and say, look, I'm not going to be able to add value. I'm not going to come. Can I get the minutes of the meeting? But if you need to be there, you've got to also have a culture of people like, yes, I'll be there. No, it's important for me to attend. You can't just say, hey, I'm not coming. It's got to be valid. But you can't have people wasting time in meetings. It's just crazy.
and you shouldn't have to have a meeting in order to get work done. You really do need to be able to have people be productive on their own and come together and review results versus having to sit in a room together to create. Now, there's something to creation in groups, but you also
Yeah,
need to be able to get things done without having to be in a meeting. You need to be able to handle things outside of meetings so that
yeah,
meetings can be shorter. You don't have to spend, an hour and a half, 2 hours sitting in a room in a meeting because that's where you create. That should not be the place where you create. The
it's a
meeting
complete waste.
Yeah, the meeting is just to touch base. It's not the place for creation, unless it's a brainstorming meeting. And,
Yeah,
in that case, it's got a great purpose. But if you're sitting in a room, just watching people create slides or something like that, then it's really not as beneficial as it could be if
no,
you were to do that work outside of the meeting and then come back for a review.
yeah. Oh, it's a complete, it's just, so many companies are running really poorly and they don't get on top of this stuff. And they don't make, productivity an imperative because when you build an organization with a state of flow where people are working well together, they're getting more done, they're feeling good about themselves because a lot is being achieved. There's a great Harvard Business Review paper on the progress principle. People feel good when they make progress. So organizations that are moving fast and getting things done, people feel better. It feels good to work there. You're productive. People's achievement needs are being met. All these human emotional needs that drive these productive outcomes are happening. And so companies have to focus on these human factors. There's just no question about it. They're never going to be agile if they don't have speed of thought, speed of change, and agile. Those rapid cycles of kind of sensing, thinking, and doing. That's what has to happen because that's what a productive organization is, right? Sensing, thinking, and doing. Figuring out, hey, here's something going on. Let's react to it, thinking about it, getting it done, moving on to the next thing. And that's how you condition an organization to actually be agile, to build that muscle and that reflex. It's really important.
Yeah. You want to have a growth mindset. So you're constantly thinking of ways that this can be better. You're looking to improve and
Yeah,
not just stay the same, not just be, okay. It's just okay. It's good
yeah,
enough. Agile thought patterns and growth mindsets say, this is great, but how can we make it better?
yeah. I love the idea of a growth mindset, but people throw that out there at an executive level, but they don't take care of all these human factors.
Right.
So you can think, hey, this is great, feels good, we'll talk about it, but you've got to create that culture that works.
Right.
Period. There's no other alternative because you're chewing up you're chewing up resources and bandwidth constantly.
Yeah, you need the culture to sustain the growth mindset. You need the culture to
Yeah.
sustain the agile culture. You know, it's just no way around it. You can't just throw out buzzwords and then not have the foundational pieces in place in order to sustain the growth that you're trying to achieve.
Yep, you got to make agility a strategic imperative. You got to make all the things we've talked about in these 19 episodes part of the DNA of the company. Leaders have to embrace this, and it's the CEO's responsibility to create this, because people don't do what leaders say, they do what they do. If the CEO doesn't own this, it isn't going to happen. It's
Yeah.
very clear, and I can tell you from years of working in this area, doesn't happen. CEO must own it. Great cultures have CEOs who build great cultures, period. And you see many CEOs who delegate. Hey, you go work on agility, or you do this, or you do that. And pretty soon, there's all these different voices around, and they haven't built a real culture. They haven't owned it. They haven't modeled the behavior. They haven't made it a priority. So what has to happen? There's just no alternative to it. Well, so 19 episodes, folks. We've been through this. The next episode, we'll be talking about authenticity. We're going to do 2 shows on authenticity. Authenticity is really important. You have to be an authentic leader. We'll talk about it. I think you're going to find it very interesting. We're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We have another show. I think the series is great. Go back and check it out. Just imagine 45% of the 4,700 CEOs interviewed by PwC do not think their company will be around in 10 years. That's an indictment of how things work. And they can't reinvent and transform their companies because they just waste all the productivity of the company down the drain. And it happens week after week, and they don't tackle the real problem. But you should join us. So we'll see you for authenticity next Wednesday. You take care.
Yes, bye for now.